Hello and welcome to this week's Questioning the Manager. Today we have Tim Stevenson, Fund Manager of Henderson EuroTrust. Now this is a continental European portfolio investing in equities and it's looking for capital growth rather than income as its objective. Tim, welcome to Questioning the Manager. So the trust invests in growth companies, so those that are growing their earnings faster than their peers or the wider market. But much has been said this year because of the reflation trade about buying value, so those companies that are underpriced by the market. Now it's growth strategies that seem to have done well. So why is this?
I think it might actually have something to do with the fact that I think this whole sort of concept of growth and value might actually be just an invention of the sort of ETF guys. And it's a way of sort of spooking people into one group and then back out of that and into another group to try to get churn in ETF. Because we just don't go out there and buy a company because it's value or because it's growth. We buy a company because we believe in its long-term prospects. And I think that the sort of these arbitrary designations of growth and value are frankly an irrelevance.
Tim, how do you see the tapering of QE playing out in markets?
I think it's going to be very interesting, this, because clearly the ECB has done enough as things stand at the moment. The European economies are recovering. Inflation is ticking up a tiny bit, although that may come down a bit with the recent strength in the euro. But the fact of the matter is that a large part of the recovery has actually happened. So at some stage, the ECB has to move back to a sort of, if you like, a more normal environment. And that's going to be the tricky thing for the market to cope with, because where does that take the 10-year bond yield to? Does it take German 10-year bond yields, through 0.5% and back up to 0.8% or something like that? And then what's the knock-on impact on that on the markets? I actually see that all as a very positive sign for the markets, but it's just the actual process of getting there that may be unsettling in the short term.
Does euro strength affect your thinking much?
The simple answer to that is say no. But it does in the sense of saying that the euro strength is probably going to lead to one or two companies turning what was a tailwind 12 months ago, as the euro was so weak and so those overseas dollar earnings were worth that much more when translated back into euros. That will now be a headwind. So it's one or two companies, I suspect, will see slightly lower forecast or numbers, with the currency being the only excuse for that. So it's purely a translational thing. And we've had that many times over the years in the euro, in the currency versus the dollar and so on. So we're aware of it, but is it something we're unduly concerned about? Not really, because it's not something that we can do too much about anyway.
Okay, finally, Tim, we've heard a lot about your larger, longer-term holdings, such as Deutsche Post and Fresenius. But what I want to know is, do you go much further down the market cap scale in order to initiate positions so that you can buy and hold those companies and enable them to grow?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly it. I suppose, you can see almost the boredom in your voice when you mention sort of Deutsche Post or Fresenius and things like that. And, sometimes these companies do really well for us. I mean, Deutsche Post has been performing really fantastically well this year, so we've had a great return from that. Fresenius has gone, broadly speaking, sideways over the last 12 months. Nothing's broken, but there are one or two things that the market's concerned about in the short term. Fresenius Medical Care, likewise, market's concerned about short-term things, but they're still in the portfolio. They're doing fine. Yes, there are plenty of sort of mid to smaller cap stuff in the portfolio. We refer to that quite frequently in our annual report, which will be coming out in October. And that's exactly what they're there for. So a name like Partners Group, for example, which went into the portfolio, I think probably about 5 years ago. Again, we don't talk about it an awful lot, but that's made a big contribution over the years. So there is some regeneration in the portfolio. There are names which have left. There are new names that come in. And again, that will be extensively reported as usual when our annual report comes out.
Tim Stevenson, thank you very much.
Thank you.